Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today as we open to the energies of Pisces as an esoteric group in this manner of a contemplative approach to integrate the sciences of the new astrology. We will continue to focus on the theme of transmutation in Pisces, the death of desire, detachment, sacrifice, renunciation are all mentioned. Fundamentally, freedom from the bondage of matter, the bondage of glamour, and the bondage of illusion, all leading to the transfiguration, the third initiation, and beyond.
Before we begin, let us align as soul and as a group, and see our group approaching Master DK's study. Let us sound the mantra of the disciples' decree. May the energy of the divine self inspire us, and may the light of the soul direct. May we be led from chaos to beauty, from darkness to light, from the unreal to the real, from death to immortality. As we enter into the energies of Pisces, let us focus on the gift waves in the teachings of Master DK related to Pisces and sacrifice, expressing the quality of humility as essential to ensure true sacrifice. With selflessness, harmlessness, and right speech, embodying right action, guiding our steps in preparing the way. The members of the seed groups are not immune from the prevalent failings, and many of them have sought to apportion the blame for world conditions and to criticize those who are seeking, in their own way and fashion, to deal with the situation. Clear thinking, a clear appraisal of causes, and a loving outgoing to all should distinguish all disciples at this time. Where this attitude does not exist, there is ever the danger of absorption into the vortex of hatred and separativeness, and the divorcing of the person by this, even if only temporarily, from the vortex of love. This spells danger and glamour. The very fact that disciples are also pronouncedly individual intensifies their reactions, good and bad. I stand almost bewildered. Did I not know and love human nature so much? At the little advance in loving thinking that some disciples have shown, it's time now, in the face of the difficulty and seeming inadequacy, to begin the intended group work, if such a beginning is ever to be made. Each group has been organized to fulfill a specific task. This united group work has not yet been started. That task must begin. Groups which will be characterized by vision, cohesion, love, impersonality, sacrifice, persistency, and creative ability.
Captivity, bondage. In the first cycle of experience upon the wheel, the soul itself is in captivity to substance. It has come down into the prison house of matter and linked itself to form. Later on, upon the reversed wheel, the personality is brought into captivity by the soul, but for long aeons the situation is reversed, and the soul is the prisoner of the personality.
Hence, the symbol of Pisces, of the two fishes linked together by a band. One fish stands for the soul, and the other for the personality or form nature. And between them is to be found the thread or Srutatma, the silver cord which keeps them bound to each other throughout the cycle of manifested life. Esoteric Astrology, page 116. And the word said, "Go forth into matter, aeons of captivity bondage." On the mutable cross, the cross of repeated incarnations, again and again, man enters into the sign Pisces and finds his way around the great wheel until the experience of change and of mutability and the establishing of the transmutation process carry his consciousness from the instinctual and intellectual stages to the faint beginnings of the intuitive processes in Gemini.
Release from the bonds of matter. Renunciation. Detachment. I leave the Father's home, and turning back, I save. The dual bondage in Pisces is brought to an end by what is called the final death, when the complete release of the life aspect from the life of form takes place. It should be borne in mind also that the soul itself is of the nature of form from the standpoint of the monad, though it is a form far subtler than any that we know in the three worlds of human evolution. There is also a dual renunciation, for first of all the soul renounces the life and light of the monad, its source, symbolized by the words "the Father's home," and descends into the ocean of matter. Then, reversing itself, the soul renounces the life of form, the personality center. The soul detaches itself in consciousness from the monad, the One, and functions from its own center, making its own new and material attachments. Then, upon the reversal of the wheel, it proceeds to detach itself from the personality and reattach itself in consciousness to the One who sent it forth. Such is the climaxing story of Pisces.
This is such an important summary. Let us read it again.
The dual bondage in Pisces is brought about by an end of what is called the final death, when the complete release of the life aspect from the life of form takes place. It should be borne in mind also that the soul itself is the nature of form from the standpoint of the monad, although it is a form far subtler than any that we know in the three worlds of human evolution. There is also a dual renunciation, for first of all, the soul renounces the life and light of the monad, its source, symbolized by the words, "the Father's home," and descends into the ocean of matter. Then, reversing itself, the soul renounces the life of form at the personality center. The soul detaches itself in consciousness from the monad, the One, and functions from its own center, making its own new and material attachments. Then, upon the reversal of the wheel, it proceeds to detach itself from the personality and reattach itself in consciousness to the one who sent it forth. Such is the climaxing story of Pisces.
Advancing man, disciples and initiates are moving into the phases of development involving the reversal of experience and opportunity on the Great Wheel.
Pisces is seen at the head of the list of zodiacal signs because it is governing the present great astrological world cycle of 25,000 years. It was also one of the dominant signs influencing our planet at the time of individualization when the human kingdom came into being.
So we are wrapped in the greater cycle since humanity came into being and are just completing a lesser cycle of Pisces and beginning a lesser cycle of Aquarius. We tend to focus on these cycles, but let us always hold the fact that the greater cycle is a cycle of Pisces, a cycle of sacrifice, a cycle of bondage for humanity. We focus on our solar cycles, the solstice, in each change of the seasons of the year. But even more so, we focus on the annual lunar cycles, for we're told that these cycles will signal a new ritual that will emerge as humanity moves deeper into awareness of these greater cycles during the coming Aquarian age. So let us grasp what we can as we move into this lunar cycle of Pisces in this year, this important year, 2025, the year of the conclave. Pause to ponder which theme is important to keep in the front of our thinking as we move through the Aquarian age in this greater cycle of Pisces in relation to sacrifice, as Dwal Kul describes it for us, the deaths that will occur, the death of desire. In your own experience and in group experience, how can we experience this death of desire for materialism and form and increase soul consciousness? The bondage to the physical plane, the bondage to the astral plane, the bondage to the mental illusions.
As we transition from Aquarius we contemplated the fifth law of the soul, the law of group progress, Ray 7. As we move into the lunar cycle of Pisces, let us consider the fourth law of the soul, the law of repulse, related to Atma, related to spiritual will. This fourth law influence comes via the egoic petals of sacrifice and the subsidiary law of sacrifice. We have here a most interesting law to consider. It is one of the major divine laws in which the pilgrim has much to do on his weary, age-long way back to the center. It is the fourth law governing or controlling the life of the soul, group life. Its exoteric name, Law of Repulse. Its esoteric name, the law of all destroying angels. The symbol, the angel with the flaming sword. And the ray energy, the rejecting energy of the first ray. This law, oh,
Go ahead.
this law is one which primarily begins to impress the divine purpose upon the consciousness of the aspirant and dictates to him those higher impulses and those spiritual decisions which mark his progress upon the path. It is the demonstration of the first ray quality, a sub-ray influence of the second ray. For it should be remembered that to repulse a form, a situation, or condition may be the evidence of spiritual love in the agent of repulsion. This is well pictured for us in the ancient symbol of the angel with the flaming sword, who stands before the gate of paradise to turn away those who seek the fancied security of that shelter and condition. This angel acts in love and has so acted down the ages that for that state of realization which we call paradise is a place of essential danger for all, save those who have earned the right to sojourn there. The angel protects the unready aspirant, not the place which he seeks to enter, and safeguards him from the risks and perils of that initiation, which must be undergone before he can pass through the 5 divisions of paradise, to the place where light dwells and the masters of wisdom live and work. This is the thought which lies behind the Masonic procedure whereby the tiler stands outside the door of the lodge with a drawn sword to protect the secrets of the craft from the unready.
Well, cool is in this. giving us so many ideas to ponder. One that's hinted at, the 5 compulsory initiations of our planet. And the angel of the presence, through those 5 initiations, conquering the dweller on the threshold. So let us think of this first ray energy as an essential quality to repulse the lower forms and to use it actively in our lives and group work.
First of all, it is well to realize that this law has certain characteristics and basic effects which might be briefly enumerated as follows. 1. The energy displayed is dissipating in its effect. This law works as a dispersing agent. 2. When in active expression, it causes an active scattering or rejection of the aspects of form life. 3. It produces a discriminating contact, which leads eventually to what is esoterically called the way of divine refusal. 4. It is, nevertheless, an aspect of the law of love, of the vision of Christ's aspect, and concerns an attitude of the soul, whose essential nature is love. 5. This law expresses itself through the mind nature, and therefore can only make its presence and influence felt upon the path of discipleship. 6. It is the prime prerequisite to true self-knowledge. It reveals at the same time that it divides or scatters. 7. It works through love and for the interest of the unit. The form and the existence which finally repulses the form. 8. It is an aspect of one of the greatest cosmic laws, the law of the soul, which is the cosmic law of attraction. For that which is attracted in time is automatically and eventually repulsed by that which attracted it in the first instance.
For those who are going to work on the dissipation of world glamour, we must assume then that those souls will be on the path of discipleship and be working through the mind nature and implementing an aspect of the law of love. These are also considerations if you believe that you are part of the one of the developing seed groups. whichever aspect you decide is your primary focus for service. DK goes on to say, I would remind you also that as this law is an aspect of the fundamental law of love, it concerns the psyche or soul, and therefore its function is to further the spiritual interests of the true man or woman, and to demonstrate the power of the second aspect, the Christ consciousness, and the power of divinity. It rejects the undesirable in order to find that which the heart craves, and thus leads the weary pilgrim from one rejection to another, until with unerring choice, the pilgrim makes the great decision. This DK quotes from the old commentary. He goes on to say that in esoteric psychology, we will divide what we have to say about the functioning and effect of the law of repulse into three parts. The law of repulse and its function and quality of desire, the law of repulse as it expresses itself upon the paths of discipleship and initiation, and the law of repulse as it drives in 7 directions and forces all that it contacts back unto the bosom of the 7 spiritual fathers. Later in Pisces, we'll consider the heart and the solar plexus, for that is the first step for most of humanity in beginning the path of discipleship and the path of initiation.
This law works through the soul in all forms. It does not literally affect matter, except insofar as form is affected when the soul withdraws or occultly repudiates. It will be apparent, therefore, that our understanding of its activity will depend largely upon the measure of soul force of which we may individually be aware, and the extent of our soul contact. Our point upon the ladder of evolution will govern our manipulation of this law, if such a term may be used, and determine our capacity to be sensitive to its impact. If we are unable to respond to its influence in any measure, that in itself is sufficient to indicate our development. Unless the mind is active, and unless we are beginning intelligently to use the mind, there is no medium or channel through which this influence can flow or work. Never let it be forgotten that this influence or law of our spiritual being is that which reveals the will, plan, or purpose of the divine life as it expresses itself in the individual or in humanity as a whole. Let us never forget that, unless there is a thread of light to act as a channel, that which governs this law can convey, will remain unknown, unrealized, and useless. These are the laws which govern predominantly the spiritual triad, that divine triplicity, which expresses itself through the medium of the soul, just as the 3 aspects of the soul, in their turn, reflect themselves through the personality.
Let us pause to ponder. Pisces is, in a way, one of the most individual signs in that we experience this law on an individual level when we step upon the path and begin group work and group service. The birth of the soul. Can we conceive of this as being through the mind? For the heart is pure reason. Consider all that must be repulsed in order to move forward through the baptism, the second initiation. To the third initiation, the transfiguration. And the importance of sacrifice and service as each of the deaths occurs.
Therefore, all that can be imparted in connection with this law can be comprehended only by the man who is beginning to be spiritually awakened. The three laws that are given here deal with the specific spiritual influences which emanate from the three tiers of petals which compose the egoic lotus. 1. The law of sacrifice. The petals of sacrifice. The sacrificial will of the soul. 2. The law of magnetic impulse, emanating from the petals of love. 3. The law of service, emanating from the petals of knowledge. This fourth law of repulse works through the first law of sacrifice and carries to the aspirant the quality, influence, and tendency of the spiritual triad, the threefold expression of the monad. Its full force is felt only after the third initiation, in which the power of the spirit is for the first time consciously felt. Up to that time, it has been the growing control of the soul which was primarily registered.
Let us together affirm the life purpose of the serving, saving disciple. I know the law and towards the goal I strive. Naught shall arrest my progress on the way. Each tiny life within my form responds. My soul has sounded forth that call, and clearer day by day it sounds. The glamour holds me not. The path of light streams clear ahead. My plea goes forth to reach the hearts of men. I seek, I cry to serve your need. Give me your hand and tread the path with me.
The Pisces Virgo, Virgo Pisces Aces. Two sets of characteristics which distinguish the man upon the mutable cross, both an evolved man and the aspirant to divinity. We might list this as follows. For an evolved man, Virgo, material life, the cherishing of an idea. Pisces, sensation, mediumship, fluidity. Evolved man, Virgo, the mother of the Christ joy, gestation. Pisces, the word savior, mediatorship. Esoteric Astrology, page 182.
The light of Pisces, the light of life itself.
You will all awaken someday to the realization that the science of service is of greater importance than the science of meditation, because it is the effort and strenuous activity of the serving disciple which evokes the soul powers, makes meditation an essential requirement, and is the mode ahead of all others which invokes the spiritual triad, brings about the intensification of the spiritual life, forces the building of the antakarana, and leads in a graded series of renunciations to the great renunciation, which sets the disciple free for all eternity. That is one of the reasons why, when in training, disciples are absorbed into a master's group, which is integrally a collection of individuals who are imbued with the group idea and are learning increasingly to react to it.
Service in this sense is not synonymous with volunteer work or the performance of good deeds. Rather, service is how we live out our truth that we are all part of the one life and that we greet each other with respect and compassion. Service is an evolutionary impetus of the soul. It is the outstanding characteristic of the soul, just as desire is the outstanding characteristic of the lower nature. It is simply the first real effect, evidenced upon the physical plane, of the fact that the soul is beginning to express itself in outer manifestation.
True service is a spontaneous outflow of a loving heart and an intelligent mind. It is a result of being in the right place and staying there. It is produced by the inevitable inflow of spiritual force and not by strenuous physical plane activity. It is the effect of individuals being what they truly are, a divine soul, and not by the studied effect of their words or deeds. True servers gather around them those whom it is their duty to serve and aid by the force of their life and their spiritualized personality, and not by their claims or loud speaking. In self-forgetfulness they serve. In self-abnegation they walk the earth, and they give no thought to the magnitude or the reverse of their accomplishments, and have no preconceived ideas as to their own value or usefulness. They live, serve, work, and influence, asking nothing for the separated self.
Keywords. And the word said, "Go forth into matter. I leave the Father's home, and turning back, I save." World unity, brotherhood in its true sense, the growth of telepathic interplay, the elimination of the non-essentials which serve to separate the thoughts of men and bring about separateness on the physical plane, and the laying of a true emphasis upon the fundamentals of the ageless wisdom, the manifestation of a true understanding, the bringing about of at-one-ment with the soul, the recognition of those who belong to the group of world saviors. This is the immediate work to be done, and this must engross your attention. I leave the Father's home, and turning back, I save.
This and this alone warrants the expenditure of all that any of you have to give: love and life, time and money. This and this alone justifies your existence and calls forth from all of you who respond to the vision that utter self-sacrifice, which is so rare and so far-reaching in its effects. The casting of all that one has at the feet of the Lord of Life, in order that the work of world salvage may go forward. The elimination out of one's life of all that can possibly hinder. The giving of all that one has until it hurts to give. The ruling of one's life on the basis of surrender. Asking oneself all the time, what can I relinquish in order that I may help more adequately? That and more than that lies ahead of all of you who hear the call and respond to the need and opportunity. I leave the Father's home, and turning back, I save.
Master DK tells us, in this time of stress and strain, I would remind all aspirants and disciples that there is no need for the sense of futility or for the registration of littleness. The seed groups that will function in the new age are, at this time, in the dark and growing stage, and in the process of expansion, working silently. This stage is, however, most important, for according to the healthiness of the seeds and their ability to cast strong roots downwards and to penetrate slowly and steadily upwards into the light, so will be the adequacy of their contribution to the new age which is upon us. I would emphasize that fact to you. The new age is upon us, and we are witnessing the birth pangs of the new culture and the new civilization. This is now in progress. In Pisces, let us focus on the quality of the heart given to us by Master DK. Sacrifice. For still, so many aspirants have not learned to give with sacrifice.
Sacrifice. Forgiveness or sacrifice in order to save others is increasingly the recognized needed keynote at this time. And in this recognition lies much to justify the sorry story of past evolutionary processes and methods. When it is recognized that the giving for involves right living upon the physical plane and not, as is so often thought, the dying of the physical body, then we shall see a revitalized world.
Liberation. In Pisces, we as a group continue to follow the path of discipleship with detachment and renunciation, leading to eventual liberation from the bondage of matter.
The subjective purpose underlying the sacrifice of these divine lives, who are ourselves essentially, who are qualified by knowledge, love, and will, and animated by ceaseless, persevering devotion. To bring about the death of the form in its occult significance and the consequent release of the indwelling lives into a higher state of consciousness. Of this process, all the world's saviors, past, present, and to come, are the manifested symbols and the eternal guarantees. It is in such recognitions as these that the mainspring to the life of service must be sought. People born in Pisces are frequently to be found serving the race and ministering to its needs upon some level of consciousness. Sacrifice and death. Thus, they are prepared for the final sacrifice in Pisces, which absorbs them back into their originating motive, as the old commentary expresses it. It is for this reason that the life of service and the directed intention to serve constitute a scientific mode of achieving release.
As we close today, consider offering your ideas and findings that you've received as impressions in Pisces. As we continue, we'll move through part 2 next week, the mutable cross and the planetary rulers. Part 3, the rays entering into our planetary life, first ray, second ray, sixth ray, and we'll look at it in contrast to the seventh ray. Part 4, the triangles and centers, the solar plexus and the heart, in greater detail. Share with us what you consider to be the most important aspects as we move along and forward together in this cycle, the cycle of Pisces, in this important year, 2025.
Repeat in connection with the great invocation. We know, O Lord of life and love, about the need. Touch our hearts anew with love, that we too may love and give. A recognition of this and a creative, impassioned use of the imagination may serve to add greater potency to your thought and to your personal will to good, as you use the great invocation in its subsidiary mantram. The keynote of the first aspect is sacrifice, and of the second, love. The words, therefore, that we too may love and give, produce a contact between the two. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide all little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of man, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Om.